beautiful Jefferson City, and especially to be with all of you and to share the excitement that is shown throughout. Madam Director, at this time, I would call on you for your presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. It is a delight to be with you this morning. And for the new commissioners, I usually start out with a bit of a brief update. And Kendra Woodhouse will have a few slides too, just to provide some updates related to operational excellence. But welcome to the two new commissioners, and to Commissioner Orscheln, good luck to you, sir, if your job is to keep the chairman in line. Let me just say. So, we continue to deal with flooding. For the two new commissioners, we had nearly 200 of our conservation areas and boat access sites impacted by the spring, early summer flooding. In some cases, we still have water on the areas, and so we continue to do evaluations of the impacts of the flooding. We are working with SEMA and FEMA to ensure that we have all of the analysis to them as well. And so when we finally wrap up our evaluation of the impacts of flooding, we will be coming back to the commission so that you understand the full impact of the flooding, and that of course includes the costs of repair. So stay tuned for that. Still a lot of work to be done. Boy, this is the time of year too that we have a lot of workshops going on for our private landowners around the state, and wanted just to mention we really are seeing increasing interest in our grasslands workshops. More and more private landowners are interested in incorporating native grasses into their grazing systems. This is a huge and promising area for us. We had two recent workshops in Bollinger and Dade counties, but this is where it's not only Department of Conservation, it also includes MU Extension, Department of Natural Resources, the Soil and Water Program there, Quail Forever, and other partners. And so we had, in these particular workshops, over 94 landowners that participated and 115 conservation professionals. So very exciting and expanding area for us. Also the time of year to talk about Western Fire. We have a number of our staff across various divisions who are trained to respond to the call for help related to Western Fire. It is a great leadership opportunity for our folks that go out there. MDC staff this particular fire season have participated on 3 of 4 different crews that have mobilized out of the Missouri-Iowa Coordination Center. Last year we sent about 50 people on a number of Western fires, including, if you'll remember, the infamous Carr Fire in California. So great leadership opportunity for our folks. We currently have staff mobilized in Nevada and Oregon right now. Wanted to just mention the permit auto renewal effort. This service has increased our ability to meet the convenient needs of our customers and the business needs of our agency. Permit customers are provided with a service that's convenient and useful and relevant to today's busy schedules. The bonus to MDC is how auto renewal contributes to our R3 efforts, allowing us to remain directly engaged with our hunters and anglers through renewal, automatic renewal of their permits, and other marketing opportunities. Wanted to mention that so far we have over 11,977 permits in the auto permit service, and so that number continues to increase. In essence, that's over 10,000 unique individuals that have enrolled so far, so very popular already. Also, and Aaron Hildreth is in the room. He's very excited, aren't you, Aaron? Where are you? Very excited to inform you that they have begun the process of counting our elk calves. And already about 20 calves have been identified to date, and many more to go, but that's very promising. And Aaron's usually he likes to remain as conservative as possible, but when he is smiling and giving me a thumbs up, I know that that's a very good sign. So we'll have more updates on our calf numbers, but so far, so good. Got to talk about our Black Bear open houses. They just wrapped up in late July. We solicited feedback on the goals of the Missouri Black Bear Management Plan, gathered opinions on Missouri's bear population and potential for hunting opportunities and experiences and perceptions of human and bear conflict. More than 600 individuals, including our chairman, provided, well, I don't know if you provided written comments, but you certainly attended one of the open houses. Most attendees, nearly 92%, agreed that the goals and objectives of the Black Bear Management Plan are considered reasonable, and most respondents, nearly 80%, feel that the Missouri Department of Conservation keeps them fairly well or well informed. So I want to thank the staff who were involved. I know there were a number of staff who were involved in those Black Bear open houses, absolutely considered a success. And I know, Mr. Chairman, you conveyed the same with the one you attended. So we have started twice a year, we go out and meet with all the staff in the field through a series of regional meetings, 9 total regional meetings with each tour. And so we have begun our summer regional meetings. We traveled first to the northwest part of the state, then to St. Louis, and then completed the southeast regional meeting this last week. It gives us a wonderful opportunity to meet face-to-face with staff to answer questions. I get the opportunity to be asked a series of questions in this particular tour, but we have great presentations on black bears, on other topics as well, including customer service. And so very, very profitable time for us to engage with staff one-on-one. Also want to talk about the agent trainee class. Over the past 4 months, the 2019 Academy class has participated in a variety of training opportunities. In addition to the boat school, they've completed a number of law enforcement classes, including ethics and professionalism, cultural diversity, communication, obstacles, constitutional law, report writing, firearms training, defensive tactics, on and on. They have spent time learning the Missouri Wildlife Code, which they're going to need to know well, and protection guidelines and the functions of the department overall. And they've completed the 7 habits of highly effective people. They have, in the next few months, they'll finish up with their post-required courses. They'll learn about our work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and how we partner with them on enforcement efforts. And they will assist in teaching hunter education. They will finally be able to graduate in October. We'd love for any member of the commission to attend that if they'd like to, but I know that the trainee class is looking forward to being fully graduated and getting on with the work, the important work as a conservation agent. So Aaron and I had the opportunity recently to head to Washington, D.C. to help celebrate the reintroduction of Recovering America's Wildlife Act. And we had the opportunity yesterday to talk to the commission about this important piece of legislation that would allow for very necessary funding to state fish and wildlife agencies. About $1.3 billion would go to state fish and wildlife agencies to help recover sensitive species, listed species, etc. It could potentially mean over $20 million to the state of Missouri. So we have our fingers crossed and hope that this legislation continues to move through. Have to talk about feral hogs. You know what an important issue this is for this agency and for many other partners, agricultural partners, many other partners who are very concerned about this invasive and destructive species. So we're just 18 months into implementing our plan with our partners. This year alone, over 8,000 hogs have been removed from Missouri. We have, as you know, over 25 USDA trappers on the ground in various parts of the feral hog management zones. We are awaiting the final decision of the Forest Service on closure of the Mark Twain to hunting. Very important decision as we look at the partners plan. If they move forward with closure, we do stand ready with additional resources to ensure that closure is successful and our eradication efforts are successful. And talking with the commission, we know that we have some work to do to ensure that there are appropriate deterrents in place for anyone who would release hogs. And so Aaron already has been having conversations with legislators who have indicated an interest in moving forward and introducing legislation. So such an important effort and topic for our agency. Have to show the smiling faces of the MDC Leads Cohort 2 class that just launched in the last 2 weeks. And we just initiated this leadership, very important leadership program. That's really a year-long program. Graduated the first cohort. These are the smiling faces of Cohort 2. Our own Commissioner Murphy came back to rally the crowd and talk about leadership. We're appreciative of him doing that, but very excited for this next class to get underway. Commissioner Harrison, I just had to stick this photo in of you. We got you busy early. I think you had only been appointed maybe a week or two, and we had the opportunity to meet your lovely wife and invite you to the Boone and Crockett Heroes Luncheon. This is Boone and Crockett only once every 3 years recognizes the heroes of conservation and all those partners who are so involved in promoting the North American model of wildlife conservation. So we were down in Springville for this particular event and appreciate your attendance there. And I have to talk about the Nature School. The thumbs up was Commission giving us approval to sign the MOU with Columbia Public Schools to initiate the effort of the Nature School, and then of course Hank Waters, former editor of the Columbia Tribune and owner of the Columbia Tribune, and his wife Vicki Russell, and their very generous donation of the property where the Nature School will be. And so programming and site development design efforts have commenced. So we'll continue to update the commission on that as well. And I just have to also hit, this is members of a lean event that we have here, not only MDC staff, but also Missouri Department of Agriculture staff. And so this lean event was held in the last month to look at our, as it relates to captive wildlife, how we can work together as agencies to streamline the permitting process and the communications process between the two agencies. We really are, I believe, in a new era of working with our department, our partners at the Missouri Department of Agriculture, and this is just one example of a number of them where we're thinking of customer first. And so for those who are permit holders for captive wildlife, keeping them in mind first, how can we ensure that we are being as efficient as possible and how we communicate with them, streamlining the requirements. And so this has really been a good conversation. And just to talk about upcoming events, we have the grand opening of Shoal Creek Conservation Education Center down in Joplin coming. Of course, dove season is upon us, bow season soon to follow. And then our partners, our annual Partners Roundtable event last year, nearly 200 people. This year we might be close to doubling that. It's going to be a significant event coming up October the 3rd in Columbia. We'd love to have members of the commission attend that as well. So lots ahead of us in the next month or two. With that, Ms. Kendra, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to share with you this morning. So with 2 new commissioners, I thought I would take the opportunity to just talk a little bit about this slide and what some of the building blocks and the foundation of operational excellence is and what it means to the department. So to start with, the statewide operational excellence, really it's an opportunity to bring the 16 departments for operational excellence together to begin to work on learning, sharing, and building a culture that really creates value for the citizens of Missouri. And it allows us to leverage statewide resources and education to build capabilities of our teams so we can provide consistency across our departments in areas such as project management, change management, dashboard, performance measures, and continuous improvement tools, just to name a few. And so great effort in terms of us working together across the state to move forward in the same direction. Lean and process improvement. So really, these are the tools and methods to help us achieve excellence here at the department. Lean is a proven set of principles and methods to reduce waste and defects within systems and processes. And by framing all activities in relation to the value they provide our customers and engaging those closest to the work to improve productivity, quality, morale, and customer service. So a lot of effort put towards really focusing on how we approach our work. And with that, in order to do that, it requires for folks to be trained and for facilitation to occur. And so we're very fortunate to continue to build on our capability and capacity within the department, where we offer different levels of continuous improvement, process improvement, and lean training. We've just recently graduated our first process innovation, which is what we compare to the Greenbelt certification. We're taking applications for the next set of classes to start soon, and so want to encourage employees to be involved in that. So just continuing to equip our folks to be able to go out and help identify where there's areas of improvement and waste, and help make improvements to the department. Another foundation is the strategic planning and outcome-based and being measurable. So part of my role here is to assist with the strategic planning, and then how do we ultimately get those plans operationalized across the department, and then put into place performance measures so that we can really gauge the results and know how we're doing and moving along. Major projects is another area. So just often we're involved in the key projects across the department, and we'll be able to provide periodic updates for activities that are going on. And then last but not least, my opportunity, since I've come here, I've had the opportunity to introduce the concepts of Malcolm Baldrige, which is really a framework for performance excellence in the areas of leadership, strategy, customer, how we use data, knowledge management, workforce, process, and key work systems and results. And so it is my goal that we will continue to infuse those principles as a way of doing business here at the department. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on some major projects, and so I had an opportunity to share with you a little bit about the organizational design and model. So this is just, again, another pictorial of, as we look at how we are structured in our organization to be able to deliver on the things that we promise our citizens, to be customer focused, to be to really align to our strategic plan, and to be as efficient as we can. We realize that it's not just all about structure, that really it's about how do we ensure that our strategy is in place, along with our process and lateral capabilities. How do we work together as team and collaborate across the department? How do we ensure that we have systems put into place to reward and recognize and hold others accountable for the work that we need to do here at the department? And how do we ensure also that we have appropriate talent in the organization to do the right work at the right time? And those things go in conjunction with how we're also structured. So we all know that it takes these things together to help move us forward. And just a little bit to kind of tie up, so as we look forward into what we've done so far with the implementation, the organizational model and the implementation, so far today, we've had an opportunity to take structural model concepts to our steering team, as well as to administration, and most recently we've provided a final recommendation for the organizational model team to administration as well as the steering team. We had an opportunity to talk with the commission yesterday, and we'll begin our kickoff work this afternoon as we move forward to take the recommendations that have been put together by the organization model team and start to implement those. We are currently out in the regions through August and September to provide staff the information that we've gathered through the interviews and the surveys, and to help them understand that we heard what they were saying, and use that information to incorporate into our final recommendations. And then we'll be able to have a further communication with the staff on October 1st. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you.
Any questions from the commission?
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Just one quick question, Kendra. Timeline, you mentioned getting out into the field with the staff. And you're hoping to kind of continue that up until, is it the end of the year, I think, is kind of a timeline?
So in order to really incorporate the recommendations, it's going to take some time, right? So probably a fairly extensive time, but we are really trying to focus that by the end of the year that we will have the organizational fully outlined and an implementation plan fully ready to go, and be ready to begin implementation right after the first of the year.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, the next agenda item is an action item. On your agenda, you will see that the consent calendar is up. It is an action item. I would ask for a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion carries. Heather, communications update, please.
Good morning, Commissioners, Director. My name is Heather Feeler, Communication Chief here at the department. And I have the privilege of sharing a communication update with you today. And I really appreciate the time I'm allowed on the agenda. I know we have a lot of important discussion items today, action items, and so to be able to share what we're doing with communication with the team, I really appreciate that. So part of our mission is to connect people with nature, help them discover nature. And so our hope is that it looks like this. We have Emily Porter, our conservation education person, sharing with English language learning students from Columbia Public Schools. You can see they're all engrossed in nature, they're connecting, they're seeing what she's saying. They're even in awe, getting a close-up look of what we do. So seeing the snake and just being able to really connect with nature, be up close, and be personal. But here's also our reality that we live in. Nature is wonderful, but it is also always connected to technology. And so I have the great job, as well as the team, of kind of blending those two. How do we share nature with folks, connect them, but how do we also utilize the tool they're doing, utilize their technology tools to help spread the conservation story as well? And so that's what I'm going to share a little bit about today. A little bit about our presentation roadmap. I want to give you a communication team overview, communication team at the department, what we do, how we're sharing that conservation stories. I always like to look at the data. So how are we growing social media? Where are those communication channels? Not only how we're progressing, but what's next of how we're going to be growing. Want to touch a little bit on some media work, notable mentions in the media, and then I get to end with sharing some recent national ACI awards that the communication team has received. So our communication team is a very diverse team. I get the privilege of being up here to share, but there's a hardworking team doing all the behind-the-scenes work that are critical to what we do. So we have news and media team, statewide news, also regional media specialists in the region to do that regional local news. We also cover social media for our team. We also have audio and video. So video is an important communication channel, putting out videos, sharing that story through visual storytelling. Marketing, digital web, so the website falls under the communication team, and I'll be sharing a little more about what's next for the website as well. And then magazines, both our Missouri Conservationist and Explorer magazine. I also posted a picture here of our awesome summer communication intern, Maddie Nolte. She's back at school in her last year getting her journalism degree in Maryville. But we always like to have communication interns in the summer, not only for the energy they bring, but also the great ideas. And so she got to go on a bear trapping experience with Laura, our fur bearer biologist, and she said it was the best summer she's ever had. And we're thankful for all the work she did for us as well. this summer too. And so these are the folks that have kind of communication, marketing, media in their titles. But I would be remiss if I didn't share that all of the department is in charge of communication. So every interaction we have with the Triangle at gas stations, giving presentations in schools, commissioners talking to folks, the director talking to groups, our partners sharing information like CFM, all of that is part of the communication package to share our conservation stories. And so even though these are the people with specific communication titles, it really is a full-time job for folks in communication. So I want to share a little bit about our numbers, what we're looking like, how we're growing, and then a little bit about what's ahead, what's next for how we're continuing to grow. So the department has several social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, even Pinterest. Pinecone wreaths are a big product and how to do it yourself things. And then we also use LinkedIn for recruiting efforts. So this is a graphic up top you can see for last quarter, April 1st through June 30th, 2019, that shares how we're growing in social media. And so you can see at the top, Facebook is our largest social media channel for the department. This was as of June 30th, but we're already up to 285,000 followers. We continue to have growth. Engagement is, you can see on the far right, how people comment on our content, how they share our content on Facebook, how they like it or love it, again, how they engage with the content that we're putting out there. And then our reach includes engagement, but it's like if I comment on the Missouri Department of Conservation, all my friends on Facebook see that, again, that's the reach. And so you have an extended reach for other people seeing that content, even if they might not be a follower or a fan of our page. We also do inbound message sentiment for Facebook, so positive, neutral, negative. The great thing about social media, whether people like it or not, is it is a two-way conversation. It's social. And so you have to also be willing to hear the voice of the customer even when they don't agree with you. And so our social media page, even though we have a comment policy against cuss words and not being a family-friendly environment, you have the right to disagree, to put your thoughts out there, and we educate and try and provide additional education, but our page is really a two-way sharing conversation that also boosts engagement. So when you have that conversation, when you're able to respond to people, our team spends a lot of time answering questions, providing additional content on Facebook for that. A little bit on Twitter, obviously not as high as Facebook, 13,000 followers, but an increase both in followers and engagement on that. Instagram, though not as high as Facebook, is our fastest growing channel. So it's a younger demographic, 18 to 24-year-olds, and I'll talk a little more about our Instagram strategy. And so we continue, even though it was a decrease last quarter on engagement, to have higher engagement even than Facebook, and also faster growing than Facebook right now. And then Pinterest is one where we just post do-it-yourself videos, do-it-yourself photos, ways that people can get out into nature and to learn. And again, that has a higher female demographic for that. Before I go into a little bit about how we're growing social media, any questions on this kind of busy dashboard for social media? Yeah, Commissioner McHenry.
Yes, thank you very much, Heather. Just a question. You have, when we have these events going on out in the community, is someone there posting and doing Twitter?
So two ways that we do that, yes. So we have media specialists, and a lot of times what they'll do is they're there covering the events, they're taking photos. Sometimes they do an after-action news release that then we also cross-promote all our news releases to our social media content. And I'm going to go into a little bit of Facebook Live. Lucas, who's standing up there, does a lot of Facebook Live at our events. So again, yes, promoting those sometimes before the event, at the event, but we get a lot of content from all over the state of covering our events and through video and photos. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Well,
Right.
for example, when you look at the month of April, I think that's right, where there's a huge spike, what happened that month that created that?
Yeah, and I can get into specifics. We kind of have a report about what, topics are under there. But, a lot of engagement, as you might imagine, around feral hogs, chronic wasting disease, so when we post content that people love or maybe have a lot of feedback on, our engagement goes up. So it's kind of a, yeah, bittersweet, right?
Thanks, Heather.
With that too. And we also, just for information here, As a government agency, we archive all our social media for sunshine purposes. So we have a system that does that automatically. So, if Commissioner Harrison, had a question about someone got banned on our Facebook page because they didn't follow our comment policy, I can go back into the archives, I can look up their name, I can see the conversation that happened, including when they were, warned to, stop using this language. We gave them several warnings, and then we banned them, and then we can make the decision if, they again want to be social with us online, if we need to, reverse that, or if we want to pull all the posts that we've had on a certain topic, we can do that easily. Again, all that's archived for sunshine purposes too.
Thank you.
So some things that we continue to do to grow social media. Facebook Live is where basically you're doing live video on Facebook, just like you would kind of on TV live. And it gives a greater visibility than standard posts. So it'll tell all our followers, MDC is live right now, something big is happening, you should tune in. And so it's great visual storytelling to do those live videos, and it's really sharing in real time, and it engages all people of your organization. So Lucas is out, he'll be out with Laura doing bear trapping to show the research, or on the river, showing what fisheries is doing for research too. And those are live opportunities at events or research projects. But then we also pre-promote Ask the Director and Ask the Agents, where we say on July 31st, you can ask questions live to our director for a half hour, any question that you want, and live she will answer those questions. And so may I say we have a wonderful director and protection team willing to take questions live that they have no idea what's coming their way, and to do that in front of the camera live on Facebook. And so I'm always appreciative of that. But it also shows our public that any question that you have, we're willing to address, we're willing to get more information and put that out there, and social media is a great way to share and take those questions live too. So we do those 3 to 4 times a year where we pre-promote Ask the Director or Ask the Agent. Instagram continues to be a great tool for reaching a younger demographic. Even though 2/3 of Americans are on Facebook, Instagram is really the fastest growing channel for 18 to 24-year-olds. And so 71% of young adults are on Instagram, up from 37% in 2013. So really the visual storytelling, they want beautiful wildlife photography, they want videos. I mean, National Geographic, which is obviously what I'm aiming for, I think has, 18 million. And so we'll get there, but again, just that visual storytelling, we're step by step. Yeah, we're close. But again, we have awesome wildlife photographers, videographers, and so Missouri is just as beautiful as anywhere in the country. And so we have opportunity on our Instagram page to really put that out there and to share and really show the visual wild Missouri and how beautiful it is. Email communication and texting communication is direct communication that continues to be both business and personal, a great way to get the word out. And so we use a system called GovDelivery with the department where people can sign up on our website to give their email address or their texting, their phone number, and we can send direct communication to them, and they can sign up for the news that they want to get from the department. So if I want to get just Central Missouri news, if I prefer to get fishing information, if I want hunting information, I can really tailor the news that I want to get from the department. So through GovDelivery, we have 659,000 emails, and so that's unique subscribers, unique emails that we send communication to, and subscriptions is the number of information topics they want to get from us. So I'm Heather Feeler, I have 1 email, I'm a subscriber, but I get fishing information, I get hunting information, and I also get statewide news. So I have 3 subscriptions that I get. They can update those at any time if they want to get more, if they want to get less, and so they really can tailor that information to how they would like to get it. And they can also decide, do I want to get an email, texting, or both? In terms of texting, we also use GovDelivery, and we really hit texting hard at our facilities. So our nature centers and our shooting ranges, because again, we want to send reminders to parents that we're having a class, don't forget, sign up, and that texting really is a great tool to do that when they opt in for our texting. We don't buy texting lists to do that. And so you can see I have summer of 2007, summer of 2018, and August of where our texting numbers are. And not that it's a competition, but shout out to the Cape Nature Center for being #1 on the list for texting subscribers for that too. So again, great direct communication. Our facilities continue to grow that by sharing at events to sign up. You can text directly from your phone, or you can go on our website to sign up too. So we try and eliminate any barriers to getting information from us. And again, they can cancel at any time if it's something they prefer not to get in the future. Moving on to our public website. We have 20,000 pages on the MDC website, so it is a busy website, and so there's lots of information to share on there. So this is for last quarter, April 1st to June 30th, and two things I want to show you. On the left side of the screen, you can see that we had 2.2 million sessions, and 5 million page views. So when you talk about a great communication channel for the department, even though it's not two-way like social media, but I'm going to talk about the two-way in just a moment, people come to our website to get information. And so we do media evaluation where I track our media, and we had this story that had like millions of dollars of news content hit, and I was like, what is this? It was a bee in somebody's eye in Japan. And I was like, how are we getting news in Japan? But they had gone to our website, to our field guide, to get information about bees, and had used that and a reference to the Missouri Department of Conservation for all their bee information. And so again, when we talk about going to find content, going to find education, our tool is really great at that. We break it down by sessions, users, page views, how people are coming to our page, and you can see most people use their mobile device. So smartphone is where it's at. Most people use that to search information. I use it all the time for Google. I hope my phone never gets taken for all the weird things I want to look up all the time and find information about. Engagement by age and gender also there. One thing I want to point out on the far right is we have started doing customer experience on our website. So when people come to our website, 25% of the users are given a survey that pops up. And when they're given the survey, it asks them, did they complete their goal when they came to the website? How easy was it to use, and how satisfied were they? And so our web team is tracking that information to then be able to make real-time modifications to the website to be able to help with that. If they take a survey, they're not surveyed again for 7 days, so it doesn't become an annoyance when they're on our website, especially because people come back quite a bit. And then at the very bottom, you can see that that's blank. How far down did they read? So next quarter, when I do a report, you'll see we're tracking how far down a page people read on the website page. Did they read 25% down, 50% down, 75% down, or all the way down? And that gives us feedback that the content that if they don't read beyond 25%, boy, we need all that content in the first 25% at the top of that web page, right? And the other stuff, maybe some photos, and so again, using that, but ultimately, the customer experience data will help us drive. This coming year, we are doing a website upgrade, and so it'll be a huge upgrade where our website will look different by the end of the fiscal year. And in that, we take the data to how we need to update the website. We also have staff test it when it's in testing mode, and we also do user testing. So we have folks come in from the public, they can test the website, we have them try and find things. Was it difficult? Was it easy? Was it intuitive? Was it not? And we can make modifications in the testing site before we launch by the end of the fiscal year. And so again, we have a lot of content on the website. What needs to rise to the top is ever evolving, but we need to continue to listen to the voice of the customer, I think, as we make those modifications. Magazines, 2 magazines, Missouri Conservationist and our Kids Explorer magazine. The Conservationist is monthly, and Explorer is every other month. And so again, you can see our subscribers, as well as our growth rate. And our average issue reach, we send print magazines to 1 per household. So I get 1 at Heather Feeler's household, but we do the average reach times 2.5. So my husband also reads it, one of my sons reads it, and so we average that. Maybe not everybody in your household is reading it, but we think it's being passed around quite a bit. And so more than just 1 person reading that. And so we continue to have great growth in both magazines, and you can see the distribution by magazine and by subscriber type too. And while our team is dedicated to the ongoing great content, making sure we get those out every month and every other month for Explore, the team is also charged this year with looking at how do we continue to grow the magazine, but also how do we continue to get it into the hands of other people who have not read the magazine. There are some of us that have been getting it since we were kids. It's a staple at our house. We see it at every doctor's office. but there are some that have not had access to the conservationists to see the great photos and content. And so how do we diversify the reach of getting it to younger folks, getting it to a variety of folks, and really expanding beyond who gets it from the 500,000. And so it's a great tool, but I think it's got much more opportunity as we continue to grow and diversify that readership. So that's what's ahead that the magazine will be working on in the next year as well. Media, so we have media specialists, our statewide news team that is always sending out news releases, being proactive to media inquiries. And so I monitor weekly and monthly. I get a report of number of media stories, what publications they were in, what was the media reach of those publications. So if a newspaper, has a reach of 500,000, the space that we had for our story for MDC in there, what was the dollar value and what was the reach of that media mention. And so it serves as a great tool to see how we're doing in media, because like social media, metrics are important. And it also provides an opportunity for our media team to see when you're proactive with sharing the conservation story, that it really does make a difference for the department. And so we can show in reach and we can show in dollars there. And so again, we can also see what are some stories that went viral. I think 2 or 3 years ago, our media specialist in Cape, Candace, they were noticing at the Nature Center that a snake that had been there had a virgin birth. And so she thought, I think that's kind of interesting. Does anybody think that's interesting? She did a news release on it. It went viral. It went around the world, and I knew we had made it when Jimmy Fallon mentioned the virgin snake birth at the Cape Nature Center on his show, to share information about what's happening in Missouri. So again, the things we think are everyday are really interesting to people, and being able to share those stories, our media team does a great job. So here's some notable media just from the past few weeks. You can see Pallid Sturgeon, St. Louis Public Radio, News Tribune, Missouri becoming prime state for birding. So again, lots of different folks interested in birding. Talking about bears, Director Pauly mentioned the bear open houses, lots of media coverage around those, lots of sharing of our growing bear population and getting that word out. And then of course feral hogs. So this will, the hard copy of Missouri Life magazine will be coming out September, but a large feature article on the fight against feral hogs in Missouri. Part of our media strategy is also to make sure, I said communication is all our jobs, and so that we have trained staff to send out the best messages possible, to feel comfortable talking to the media, and part of that is giving them training to do that. And so our communication team does internal staff media training every year. We do between 5 and 8. And so for any internal staff that want to get better at messaging, want to feel more comfortable in front of media, even might be giving some just public community events. We train them. It's a full day course. And so we have different locations around the state to be able to do that. And again, just keep strengthening our message, no matter who's in front of the camera or sending out those messages. And last but not least, I wanted to mention our National ACI Awards. So ACI stands for the Association for Conservation Information. It has 80-year history, just like the Missouri Department of Conservation, and it is a national nonprofit association of natural resources communicators, both at the state and federal level. So it's communicators and educators, like we have in Missouri, all over the state, federal level too. MDC is a member of ACI. And the annual conference is in July, and it rotates for states for hosting. So Missouri hosted in 2018 in Springfield. We hadn't hosted since 1971, and so it was our time. I will say we had the largest conference they've ever had, and so I like to say it was super successful, but Georgia also had a nice conference in 2019 as well. And so I wanted to, and so with the annual conference, we also submit for national awards for communications. They have 400 entries each year. They're super competitive, and there's lots of award categories, from regulation booklets to calendars to magazines to articles to videos, and so it really is a competitive category. And so this year, I wanted to share the winners. We had 10 winners from Missouri at the ACI conference. Some are here today, some are working on deadline. So if they are here, I would ask them to stand, and then we're going to do some other awards after my presentation, and we'll take a group photo when we take a break afterwards. But if you are here to stand, I know a lot of them couldn't be here today. So the winners are First place in the calendar category for our 2019 Natural Events Calendar, team members Whitney, Les, Karen, Kevin, Matt, and Cliff. Second place in the magazine fisheries article category, Lobsters of the Midwest, Bill, Angie, Knopp, and Stephanie. Second place in photography of people, trout stocking on the 11 Point, our wildlife photographer David Stoner. Second place in regulations publication, Migratory Bird and Waterfowl Hunting Digest, Libby and Matt. Third place in graphics layout section, Knopp's Guide to Nature Photography, Mark, Knopp, and Marcy worked on that project. Third place in one-time publication book report, A Guide to Missouri's Edible and Poisonous Mushrooms, which this publication flies off the shelves, hard to even keep it in distribution. Melissa Brigler, Bonnie, Les, and Mark worked on that. Third place in video PSA, Discover Nature TV PSA Spring Peepers, Candace, Kevin, and Kip. Third place in one-time publication, Other CWD Sampling Promo. We do a huge poster sharing the counties that we're going to do for CWD mandatory sampling, Karen and Stephanie. Third place in photography, Flora and Fauna, Baby Box Turtle Hatching from Egg, Knopp. And then also a third place, he tied himself in that category, Pipe Vine Swallows, Knopp. So a huge congratulations to them. It's super competitive, and we had a representative, Kip, went this year to represent us in Georgia, but in Missouri I teared up a little bit in the front row when our team won their awards because they work so hard, and see them recognized on a national level just gets me right here. So I'm a feeler and I feel a lot, so I always appreciate that. And with that, any questions that you guys?
Questions, commissioners?
Just one question, Heather.
Yes.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Very well done. You've got apps, I think about 4 apps you have out.
We do, yes.
Do you have statistics on how many folks are downloading those?
We do, absolutely, and we can get those to you. Yeah, we track that. We also track feedback, so again, two-way communication, through our Mo Hunting app. We have, our team answers the questions for that, and so we use that customer feedback when we do upgrades, but we can tell you the number of downloads, historical, and how they're progressing and the growth of each one of those. Yeah, we can get that information to you very
Thank you.
quickly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Very good presentation, and congratulations to
Thank you.
you and all the people and the participants.
Oh,
I just had one quick question.
Yeah.
On the public perception of the use of the website.
yes.
Have you looked and compared to how we compare to other states' websites and public perception, and how's our performance compared to those?
Yeah, we definitely look at websites all the time, seeing what other states are doing, what other organizations are doing. I don't know that we've asked the specific question, but I can talk with our web team about how they're measuring their customer satisfaction. I just know what we're doing through Qualtrics and our survey mechanism there, but we definitely look at best practices for other organizations, what they're doing too, and we'll continue to do that. But I can get more information about looking how other states, do their surveys for their website.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it'd be helpful for us just to compare how we're doing to others.
Absolutely. And website is ever evolving. We know that a lot of people come to that. It's an important tool. And so continuing to evolve it and make it the best it can be is super important to our team and what we're doing with the department.
Navigating it through it, I think everybody finds them always challenging, but then
Yeah.
comparing to how others are doing and,
Yeah.
assessment, I think would be very helpful for us.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill? The next agenda item is a recognition on some awards. Actually, we have 2 major awards. Bill?
Thank you,
you're the
Mr. Chair.
presenter.
Good morning, Commissioners, Director Pauly. It's my pleasure to recognize private land conservationist Rick Rath. And Rick, if I could get you to stand. As you can tell, he blushes easily. Rick is stationed in Southwest Missouri in Greenfield, and he was one of 12 recipients of the National Firebird Award, which was awarded last month by the National Bobwhite Technical Committee in Carbondale, Illinois. And these recipients are chosen for their contributions to efforts toward habitat-based restoration of the bobwhite quail populations. Rick's district encompasses thousands of acres of priority focus areas, including grassland areas and quail restoration landscapes. When he first became a private land conservationist, Rick found that landowners were not beating a path to his door, so he started knocking on their doors. He found the key landowners in these counties and over time has gained their trust. This has caused a snowball effect as more and more landowners seek his assistance and accept his presence in the counties. In securing funding for projects with his landowners, he's pulled in over $500,000 in state and federal cost share and incentives. In FY18, he had 235 landowner site visits. That's more than double the average of any other private land conservationist. He has written 125 landowner plans, again, more than double most other private land conservationists. In addition, he has landowners participating in the Missouri Outdoor Recreational Access Program and the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program. Surveys indicate that the efforts of Rick and his landowners have doubled quail populations and had a positive impact on grassland birds. The Food Alliance auditor for the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program said that Rick's plan for the first Missouri participant in the program was the most detailed, professionally produced plan that he has seen in the 6 states that he conducts audits in. Rick's often quiet and always humble, but his actions and success speak volumes in regard to the grassland habitat improvement and the gaining of the trust of his landowners. Rick is the epitome of customer service to Missouri landowners. He was the 2018 Private Land Services Division Employee of the Year. He was nominated for the Hugh Hammond Bennett Award of Conservation Excellence, and so it's with great pleasure that I congratulate Rick on becoming Missouri's 2019 Firebird Award recipient.
Bill, don't go too far.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. It's my privilege to talk a little bit about this next award. This next award goes to Private Land Services Division Chief, Mr. Bill White, as the Spirit of the Shack Achievement Award recipient at the Midwest Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies Directors Meeting in Oregon, Ohio, my mistake. The Midwest Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies is composed of 13 states and 3 provincial fish and wildlife agencies in the central U.S. and Canada. This award is given to the individual who exemplifies the ideals of the great conservationist and educator Aldo Leopold, and who has contributed to conservation in superior ways. This individual should epitomize stewardship and dedication to fish and wildlife conservation, which certainly describes Chief White. A few highlights from Bill's nomination. Bill embodies the ideals we all strive to achieve to keep conservation relevant and wildlife and their habitats healthy and sustainable. Whether as a biologist, partner, leader, or change influencer, Bill tirelessly strives to instill a conservation land ethic through many avenues. Bill completely understands that conservation is bigger than the agency he works for, and partnerships are yet another way to influence the adoption of a conservation land ethic. As a result, the Department of Conservation now has many partnerships that would have previously been considered non-traditional. Like Leopold, Bill recognizes the importance farmers play in conserving our land. Looking towards the future, Bill realizes that for conservation to stay relevant, we need to reach all Missouri citizens. This is especially important considering that 70% of our population lives in urban areas. With his leadership, we are pioneering new approaches to bring nature closer to our urban populations. Bill has been instrumental in the development, adoption, and implementation of MDC's new strategic plan. This is a direct result of his leadership style. His leadership has promoted a culture that empowers staff at all levels to make the decisions necessary to advance conservation. The examples provided here are simply some of the highlights of Bill's career so far. His continued passion for the resources and vision for the future make him a model leader for any conservationist or conservation organization. His relentless pursuit of conservation and the adoption of a conservation ethic at all scales helped earn him this Spirit of the Shack Award. Congratulations, Mr. White.
Thank you. This one is very humbling for me because of who it was named after, or who in spirit was named after, Aldo Leopold, and also from the fact that my own staff nominated me for the award. So, but an award like this, it's not about the one person that's getting the award, it's about the team, and whether it's the team of staff out in the field, or my team here in the office, or the team of division chiefs and administration, it took all of us to get to where we are today. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
May I continue, Mr. Commissioner?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir, we're taking about a 15-minute break. Okay, they want, hey, Steve. bear with us. We're starting a regs committee report. And I would tell you that we have had extensive discussion that the commission has before we came to this meeting today. So do not think, because we're going to continue to move this along, that we haven't deliberated to a great extent on most of these items. So if you would, Mike, please start.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Good morning again.
Excuse me 1 minute.
Yes.
We have 10 action items on these regs that cover 29 different things. So the commission will be busy making motions, and so bear with us. Please continue.
Absolutely. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Director Polly. On July 18th of 2019, the Regulations Committee conducted its mid-year review of the Wildlife Code. Recommendations for the 2020 code changes were reviewed by the committee, and 4 proposed amendments, 1 new rule, and an order of rulemaking are brought forward for consideration today. Those recommendations are listed in the action items beginning on the first page of your commission packet, and copies of each proposed rulemaking with associated justifications are appended. Mr. Chair, before I move on to my formal report, recall that this past May, the Commission voted to approve a series of recommendations for regulation changes that were identified by a team of staff led by Deputy Director Aaron Jeffries and Dr. Charles Anderson as they conducted an initial review of the department's permit fee structure. Given that many permit prices have not been adjusted for over a decade, and revenue generated by those permits has not kept up with the actual costs of the programs provided by this agency, the team recommended a series of modest price adjustments for a subsection of the permits offered for residents and non-residents. Permit fee recommendations were based on information from the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index related to the cost of living increases from 2008 to 2018. It's important to note that fee increases recommended for resident permits are based on 75% of those increases, while non-resident permit fee changes recommendations are based on 100% of the CPI. The team also looked at all aspects of Missouri's landowner permit program and offered several recommendations for improvements to those regulations. Following the Commission's initial vote, the proposed changes were filed with the Secretary of State's office for publication in the Missouri Register, which initiated a 30-day public comment period. During that formal comment period, the department collected input from over 350 individuals by telephone, in-person discussions, and via email from the public website on the proposed rulemakings that would add 2 definitions to the Wildlife Code, adjust the minimum acreage requirement from 5 to 20 acres within the resident landowner definition, and add elk to the list of species considered as game mammals. Would establish a registry for resident and non-resident landowners, increase trout fishing permit fees, daily fishing and small game hunting permit fees, and non-resident permit fees. Would establish reduced cost non-resident landowner hunting permits, modify regulations pertaining to transportation of cervid carcasses and presentation of carcasses for chronic wasting disease sample collection, and clarify rules pertaining to the disposal of cervid carcasses by commercial establishments. A summary of input received during the comment period, along with staff responses, are included on final orders of rulemaking, which are provided in your commission packet. This presentation of orders of rulemaking as formal commission action items signifies the final step in the department's regulation process. The commission has the authority to adopt as originally written, amend, or withdraw the proposed regulations. If orders of rulemaking are approved today, rules that establish the landowner registry will be effective on January 15th of 2020, while each of the remaining changes have an effective date of February 29th of 2020. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, to keep discussion organized, I'll introduce action items by topic.
Thank you.
I'll begin with the order of rulemaking for 3 CSR 10-20.805 definitions, which finalizes several important wildlife code changes including the increased acreage requirement to qualify for no-cost landowner privileges. It also establishes a definition for non-resident landowners to set eligibility requirements for reduced-cost non-resident landowner deer and turkey hunting permits, similar to regulations that were in place until 2009, defines antlered elk and adds elk to the list of species considered as game mammals, which lays the necessary groundwork for a future elk hunting season in Missouri. 157 individuals provided input on the proposed wildlife code changes. Comments primarily addressed changes to the resident landowner definition that will increase the acreage threshold to receive no-cost hunting, trapping, and fishing privileges from 5 to 20 or more acres. However, other comments addressed non-resident landowner definitions and associated reduced-cost deer and turkey hunting permits. Those comments and the department's responses are outlined on the order of rulemaking beginning on page 3 of your packet. It is important to note that 5 acres is not enough to have a meaningful impact on deer and turkey and some small game species that use the land. Given this information, the department collected input from citizens last spring to gather opinions on an appropriate acreage amount. During the month of March, over 14,000 people provided input, and based on preferences shared, 21 acres was the average. The original recommendation to move to a 20-acre threshold for no-cost landowner privileges approved by the commission in May was based on this information. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval of this order of rulemaking with no changes to the original recommendation.
Fellow commissioners, you have heard the presentation. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Yes, sir. I make that motion.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. You know, when you look at the comments that have been made, of the, I think it was what, 300 and some odd,
Over 350 individuals.
and most of those were made why exactly? What was the primary concerns that were?
There were a wide range of concerns expressed. The increased acreage requirement, of course, for a lot of folks, it was now they would have to purchase deer and turkey hunting permits that they did not have to purchase previously.
Did they relate just to deer and turkey, or?
Primarily, that's what their comments were related to. A lot of them were in generalization of that we have to buy permits. Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Just to kind of follow up on that, and, you know, in discussing this, you know, it does specifically address deer and turkeys, but it also includes small game. And, you know, one of the elements of this that is important to me is that as we introduce new hunters into, you know, the hunting environment, most of those people really start with the small game. And, you know, the discussion that, you know, small game can be acquired and propagated on a much smaller acreage. And so I'd like to have some discussion as far as, you know, that part of the topic.
That is true, Commissioner. I think squirrels have a home range of around 3 acres, so it is possible that on an area of 5 to 20 acres that some small game could be enhanced by management efforts on those small acreages. As far as deer and turkeys, deer, we all know, have a much larger home range as well as turkeys. It's more closer to 600 to 1,000 acres on an annual basis. But the 20 acres that we landed on is really related more to average deer density in the state in decent habitat. That in decent habitat within Missouri, you can have about 1 deer per 20 acres. And so that kind of coincided along with the public's input of 21 acres as an average preference, and helped us land on the 20-acre suggestion or to the commission for the rule change. The reason that we did not initially look at separating out small game from others is a lot of our sportsmen and a lot of what we know from around the country is that regulation complexity can be a hindrance to folks' participation. And this would just be another line in the code and different definition for a landowner. So initially, that's why we did not choose to separate out deer and turkey, not to say that it cannot be done.
Well, and just to add to that, I mean, I remember when I was a young hunter and developing my passion for wildlife, it started in my grandmother's backyard, basically.
Mhm.
And, and I think it's essentially that we don't do anything that limits that interest in those individuals.
Mike, the 5 acres, which is where we are today, before any changes, how long has that been in place?
The 5 acres, I think in the 80s, mid-80s, 85 maybe.
Is the number different prior to that?
It was 75 acres prior to that.
So we went from 75 down to 5.
Correct.
Now
Yep.
we're looking at something different, okay.
Yep. And
From what I hear in the discussion, I think there would be, could possibly be a decision on the part of the commission to change this. And that would be to go to 5 acres for small game and fishing and trapping, 20 for deer, turkey, bear, if we ever have a bear season.
elk, yep.
And if I'm hearing that correctly, I would call for a motion to amend the original motion that's on the floor.
I'd like to make that motion, Mr. Chairman. Given the commission's desire, as you've indicated, to look at this particular rule, is presented to us, the smaller acreage, the 5 acres would then be for the smaller animals, as we've indicated. Would be there again, squirrels, rabbits, and so forth. And then, obviously, the larger number for the elk and the deer and the turkey.
And to clarify
And
my
that would be
understanding,
21 or 20?
So it would be 20, but would remain 5 acres for the small game trapping. So, do I have a second to that motion?
I would like to clarify, Commissioner, so I understand, that we are talking about maintaining from 5 to 20 acres small game, trapping and fishing in waters of the state as no-cost privileges for landowners of 5 to 20. And then from 20 over, move forward with, you have to have 20 acres to be eligible for free deer and turkey hunting privileges, and in the future, other large game.
Yes, sir, that's the intent, I think, of
That's
the
the
motion.
intent, yes.
And there has been a second.
Second, yes.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed likewise, motion carries.
Thank you,
May
Mr.
continue,
Chairman.
sir.
I will ensure that those changes are made prior to submitting the final orders of rulemaking to the Secretary of State. Thank you. The next 2 orders of rulemaking for 10-7.434 deer, landowner privileges, and 10-7.455 turkeys, seasons, methods, and limits, establish a registry for qualifying residents and non-resident landowners to obtain no-cost or reduced-cost permits to take deer and turkey on land that they own. Mr. Chairman, I request Commission approval of the orders of rulemaking with no changes to the original recommendations.
Fellow Commissioners, you have heard the presentation on 10-7455. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The original recommendation for 10-5.250, daily hunting and fishing tags, was to increase the price of tags at all trout parks to $4 for adults and $3 for youth. However, given comments received from the public and the Commission's desire to offer additional opportunity for citizens where possible, staff are recommending modified verbiage for 10-5.250 daily hunting and fishing tags to allow for the establishment of a pilot program at one trout park. The pilot program will allow a daily limit of 5 fish at Merrimack Springs Park beginning on March 1st of 2020, and the cost of the daily permit will be $5 for adults and $3 for persons 15 and under. The permit fee portion of the pilot program is being incorporated in this rulemaking. Recommendations to adjust the daily and possession limit for trout at Merrimack Spring Park will be brought forward for Commission consideration during your meeting in October. Mr. Chairman, I request Commission approval of the order of rulemaking for 10-5.250 daily hunting and fishing tags with no changes to the recommendations for daily trout tag fee increases for Bennett Springs, Montauk, and Roaring River State Parks, and revised verbiage to establish a separate trout fishing pilot program at Merrimack Spring Park.
Fellow Commissioners, do I have a motion to that effect?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 11 orders of rulemaking will finalize the process to implement modest price increases for non-resident permits, trout permits, and daily fishing and small game permits. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval of orders of rulemaking for 10-5.430 trout permit going from $7 to $10, 10-5.440 daily fishing permit going from $7 to $8, 10-5.445 daily small game hunting permit going from $11 to $14, 10-5.540 non-resident fishing permit going from $42 to $49, 10-5.545 non-resident small game hunting permit going from $80 to $94, 10-5.551 non-resident firearms any deer hunting permit going from $225 to $265, 10-5.559 non-resident managed deer hunting permit going from $225 to $265, 10-5.560 non-resident archery hunting permit going from $225 to $265, 10-5.565 non-resident turkey hunting permits. Spring permit would go from $190 to $224, and the fall permit would go from $110 to $130. 10-5.567 non-resident conservation order permit going from $40 to $47, and 10-5.570 non-resident fur bear hunting and trapping permit going from $130 to $192, with no changes to the original recommendations.
Fellow Commissioners, you have heard this length of, or length of this presentation on these. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Just a question, Mike. You've done some surveying on all this in order to kind of come up with these numbers. That's my understanding.
Well, these numbers were actually adjusted based on the consumer price index from the previous price of the permit.
Okay.
But we have looked at how they correspond to other surrounding states'
Okay.
similar privileges.
That would be my
And we are the lower end of the spectrum for most of these.
So
permits.
lower than surrounding states.
Yes, for most of them, and some of them considerably lower.
And then these go into effect at the end of February?
They go into effect for the end of February, so they would not impact anyone coming in for deer hunting this fall, but it would start with spring turkeys in 2020.
Okay, so effective March 1st for all practical.
And trout permits effective March 1st of 2020. That's
Thank
where
you,
the
Mike.
big, yes, sir.
When was the last time, Mike, that we had significant or material price increases on these
We've
permits?
had no price increase on any permit in a decade, and some of these permits that we're looking at are close to 20 years. That's why the non-resident fur bear hunting and trapping permit took a bigger jump than some of the others. So they have not
Going
been
forward-
adjusted for a long
Going
time.
forward, would it make more sense to just periodically have very small increases as opposed to?
If the commission would be amenable, that would be our preference, is to get into a situation where we look at permit fees on a much more regular basis so that we can bring small but meaningful price increases to the commission on an annual or semi-annual basis, biennial basis.
Very good question.
Just to add to that,
Steve.
he said that you made these adjustments based on the CPI, and, of course, public perception, looking at that, when you don't do it very often, it has a very negative impact on it. And, again, to add to Barry's comments, I think it'd be very beneficial for us, as a department to look at doing this more on a regular basis. That's reflective of what's going on with the economy and the CPI in the future.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Thank you.
Did you have
Yeah,
another
just a
comment?
follow-up on that. I know it's effective there again into February of 2020 now. This information then can be made available prior to that time through the website, so people will know going into next year before they hear about it at a later.
Yes, we will start the public outreach effort almost immediately. We have
Today.
press releases will move.
Okay. Now, that's under the assumption we approve this. We haven't approved it yet.
That's true. We always prepare both directions.
All right. Thank you.
Hearing the voice of the commissioners on this, I think that it would be appropriate at the October meeting to have some discussion relative to moving these things forward more frequently. So if you would, please prepare something for future discussion.
Absolutely.
You've
Mr.
heard
Chair.
the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion carries. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Continue.
Commissioners, prior to 2009, the department offered reduced-cost deer and turkey hunting permits for non-resident landowners with at least 75 acres in one contiguous tract. The next three orders of rulemaking finalized proposals to reinstate reduced-cost non-resident landowner permits to recognize wildlife habitat contributions made by those individuals and their desire to come to Missouri to hunt on property they own for a reasonable price. Also included in this action item is an order of rulemaking to add the new non-resident landowner any deer hunting permit to the list of permits required as a prerequisite to purchase a non-resident antlerless deer hunting permit. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval of orders of rulemaking for 10-5.576, non-resident landowner firearms any deer hunting permit, which would be $195. 10-5.579, non-resident landowner firearms turkey hunting permit. Spring would be $165 and fall would be $96. 10-5.580, non-resident landowner archers hunting permit, which would also be $195. And 10-5.552, non-resident firearms antlerless deer hunting permit, but this would only add the non-resident landowner firearms any deer hunting permit to the list of permits required as a prerequisite to purchase the non-resident firearms antlerless deer hunting permit. That price will stay at $25, as it currently is.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, you've heard the presentation. Is there a motion to approve?
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Everyone in favor say aye.
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 Opposed likewise. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You may continue.
Thank you. We're halfway there. We're halfway there. The last four orders of rulemaking for 10-4.135 transportation, 10-4.200 chronic wasting disease management zone, 10-10.744 commercial deer processing permit privilege and requirements, and 10-10.767 taxidermy, tanning, permit privileges and requirements, will limit transportation of cervid carcasses into and within the state, provide provisions for transporting cervid carcasses to processors and taxidermists, remove the requirement for all deer to have at least 6 inches of neck attached when presented for chronic wasting disease sample collection, establish a requirement for commercial processors, licensed taxidermists, and tanners to dispose of unused cervid parts in a sanitary landfill or transfer station, and clarify record retention requirements for them. 21 individuals provided input on the proposed rulemakings during the formal 30-day public comment period. Of those, 12 indicated support for the changes. Specific comments and departments' responses are included in your orders of rulemaking beginning on page 56 of your packet. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval of these final orders of rulemaking with no changes to the original recommendations.
Fellow commissioners, may I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. May continue, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll move on to my formal report. To keep discussions organized and ensure clarity, I will address the proposed changes brought forward during the Regulation Committee's mid-year review of the Wildlife Code by division. Commissioners, your approval of the proposed changes presented today from here forward signify the first step in the Department Conservation rulemaking process. Following your vote, all proposed rulemakings will be filed with the Secretary of State's office for publication in the Missouri Register, which will initiate a formal 30-day public comment period. Comments received on specific proposals will be compiled and presented as part of final orders of rulemaking for commission consideration at your meeting in December. As previously instructed, for rulemakings that do not receive comments, no further action by the commission is necessary, and staff are authorized by the commission to file the final orders of rulemaking. The anticipated effective date for proposed rulemakings brought forward for commission consideration today is February 29th of 2020. One proposed change to establish season dates and limits will be filed as a final order of rulemaking and is not subject to the public comment period. If approved, the order of rulemaking to modify season dates for gigging will be effective on September 15th of this year, of 2019. Unless you have questions regarding the process, I'll move on with the action items for commission consideration.
Any questions? Please continue.
Thank you. Commissioners, recall that administration was made aware of a typographical error that resulted in an inaccurate reference to the state statute in the authority section of multiple regulations throughout the Wildlife Code. As rules are open for other changes, staff were instructed to correct the inaccurate references. Please note that the proposed amendment on 10-4.130, owners may protect property, contain this correction in addition to the recommended changes that you'll be asked to vote on. Commissioners, in recent years, the department has received numerous requests to allow the use of night vision or thermal imaging equipment to control nuisance wildlife on private property. In response to those requests, Protection Division introduced proposed amendments, to allow an agent of the department to grant a written authorization to landowners and/or their representatives to use this equipment on private property to address livestock depredation issues caused by coyotes and to take feral hogs. Mr. Chairman, I request Commission approval of proposed changes to 3 CSR 10-4.130, owner may protect property, public safety, and 10-7.410, hunting methods as described.
Fellow commissioners, you have heard this presentation, and I applaud the fact that we're responding to the public desires. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make that motion.
Motion made. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. To increase opportunities for anglers, Fisheries Division brought forward a recommendation to extend the length of time during which individuals can use a gig or atlatl to take fish from streams or impoundments by 15 days. If approved, gigging season would be open on September 15th and run through February 15th annually. Mr. Chairman, I request Commission approval of proposed changes to 10-6.550 other fish as described.
You have heard the presentation for approval on 10-6.550. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of.
Okay, please.
I have just a couple of questions. I just, in extending the season by 15 days, I know we have responsibility for management of the wildlife resources. Have we looked at the biological impact, any potential negative impacts of that?
Yes, Commissioner, we have looked at that. Our Fisheries Division did extensive outreach to our public and other partners as well. And what we found is that extending it by 15 days will not probably cause will not cause any significant biological impact. If it went much later than that, we would start to be concerned about the takings of fish that we were not wanting to be gigged, such as walleye and those types of species. But going to February 15th, we do not have significant concerns from a biological perspective with that at this time.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. May continue.
Wildlife Division brought forward the next set of proposed amendments to expand public recreation and wildlife management opportunities on Burr Oak Woods and Prairie Fork Conservation Area. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval of proposed changes to 10-11.180, hunting general provisions and seasons, which will allow small game hunting on Burr Oak Woods and Prairie Fork, and 10-11.205, fishing methods and hours, which will allow fishing by educational groups with a reservation on Prairie Fork.
Commissioners, do I have a motion to that effect?
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. May
Thank you.
continue.
The department continues to look for effective management strategies that will minimize prevalence and prevent the spread of chronic wasting disease in the state. In order to streamline the process used to authorize landowners to take additional deer on their properties in the CWD management zone counties, Resource Science Division recommends a new rule, 10-7.439, Deer Chronic Wasting Disease Management Program, Permit Availability Methods Limits, to establish requirements for obtaining and using no-cost chronic wasting disease management permits. These permits would replace the plastic CWD management seals that have been issued to landowners in certain counties since 2013. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval of this proposed rule as described.
Commissioners, do I have a rule to abide by the request?
Yes, so move.
Second.
Made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, motion carries.
Thank you. Commissioners, since my last Regulations Committee report, citizens have provided input on various regulations, including proposed rulemakings initially approved at your May and June meetings. A summary of comments received on those proposed rulemakings, as well as input from citizens on existing regulations, are included in my formal report beginning on page 2. Upcoming meetings of the Regulations Committee are scheduled for September 12th, November 19th of 2019. Mr. Chairman, unless you or members of the commission have questions, this finally concludes the Regulations Committee report.
Any questions,
No,
commissioners?
good job, Mike, and share that also with members of your committee, please.
The committee and our staff do incredible work to get to this point. I just am the messenger, so.
A lot of work, and one thing I would like for you to add is on that, the percent of people that we found that were really abusing the landowner privilege.
Absolutely, and when we did that last year after deer season, as I stated the previous commission, we randomly selected 1,000. We audit these annually, but last year we did it in a fashion that we could gain some good information. Randomly selected 1,000 of those landowner permits and had our protection agents follow up with them and document what they found. And out of that 1,000 scattered across the state, over 35% of them were in some form of violation, knowingly or not understanding how those permits were supposed to be used.
Thank
So
you.
there is significant issues with those permits. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Andrew, you're up, please. And these are action items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Director Pauly. I'll be presenting items 7 and 8 on your agenda. The first item is the fiscal year 19 year-end financial report. And then I have an action item seeking approval of the appropriation request for the FY21 executive budget. First, if you'll turn your attention to the fiscal year 2019 year-end review. For the new commissioners, at every commission meeting, I'll give you a monthly update of where we are with the financial position. And then at the end of the year, I'll give the financial report for the end of the year. Basically, I'll be providing variances from both the previous fiscal year and from the budgeted amounts. To start with revenues, total revenues for fiscal year 19 were 1% higher than fiscal year 18 and 2% below expectations. The variance from budget expectations are a combination of sales tax, permit sales, and federal reimbursement. I will discuss each of those individually. Revenues are received from four main sources: 61% from conservation sales tax, 17% from permit sales, 16% from federal reimbursements, and 6% from other sources. Conservation sales tax revenues for fiscal year 19 were 1.1% higher than fiscal year 18 and 1.3% below expectations. Fiscal year 19 conservation sales tax growth compared to fiscal year 18 was below the 10-year average of 2.3%. So for perspective, I've given you different trends over the years in your advanced materials. When projecting sales tax revenues, we generally look at multiple factors, including the consensus revenue estimate that the executive branch agrees with the legislative branch to build their budget. The actual statewide sales tax revenue is about half of their original estimate, so it's much in line with where we ended up the year. Permit sales revenues were 2.3% below the previous fiscal year and 3.7% below expectations. The change in permit sales was below the 10-year average of a 0.4% growth. Weather-related issues, especially the floods, were likely the main reason for the drop in permit sales in the second half of the fiscal year. Federal reimbursements for fiscal year 19 were 1.9% higher than fiscal year 18 and 6.1% below expectations. Growth in federal reimbursements was in line with the 5-year average. Federal reimbursements were hampered by timing issues related to submission of claims and lower construction costs from those weather-related issues that we'll talk about later in the construction expenditures. Other revenues for fiscal year 19 were 7.6% above fiscal year 18 and 8.6% above expectations. Other revenues include sales, rentals, interest, contractual services, donations, insurance, reimbursements, settlements, and refunds. Due to the volatility of donations, timber sales, and other contractual services, we generally budget this revenue flat, resulting in a larger percentage growth above expectations. If there are any questions on revenues, I'll turn your attention to the expenditures.
Questions, commissioners? Continue, please.
Thank you. Total expenditures for fiscal year 19 were 4.4%, increased 4.4% from fiscal year 18, and were 8% below the mid-year adjusted budgeted amount. The lower than anticipated expenditures are mainly due to lower spending on land conservation partnerships and construction due to weather issues. Expenditures for fiscal year 19 were made primarily from four main categories: 52% from personal services, 36% from expense and equipment, 9% from construction, and 3% from land conservation and partnerships. Personal service expenditures for fiscal year 19 increased 2.9% from fiscal year 18 and were 3.2% below budget expectations. Growth of personal services from fiscal year 18 to 19 is above the 10-year average due to the implementation of the market-based compensation plan that the commission approved and the increased retirement contribution increases from Mosers. Personal services can further be broken down as salaries, hourly labor, and benefits. Compared to fiscal year 18, salary expenditures were 0.9% higher. Hourly labor expenditures were 20% higher, and fiscal year 19 expenditures for benefits were 4% higher, mainly due to that contribution increase. Expense and equipment expenditures for fiscal year 19 decreased 2.6% from the previous year and were 3.4% below expectations. Fiscal year 19 expenses decreased 5.4% from 18, while equipment expenditures increased 7.7% from the previous year. And that was mainly due to replacing a lot of aging equipment. Total capital expenditures for fiscal year 19 were 46% above fiscal year 18 and 32.8% below mid-year budget expectations. The large increase from the previous fiscal year was due to the lack of appropriation authority in fiscal year 18 due to the non-passage of House Bill 19 in capital improvements. Capital expenditures include construction projects, repairs, maintenance, and land conservation and partnerships. Construction expenditures were 27.5% higher than fiscal year 18 due to the appropriation issues, and 23.8% below expectations, mainly due to weather-related and timing issues. Expenditures for land conservation and partnerships were 195% higher than fiscal year 18, again due to the appropriation issue, and 52.2% below expectations. Final pages in your report provide a summary of activities for fiscal year 19 that illustrate the interaction of revenues and expenditures. This concludes my remarks on the fiscal year 2019 year-end review. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
Yeah,
Questions?
good report, Andrew. You mentioned, I know that expenses are down because of the construction related to weather and stuff. Somehow, I mean, obviously, when the conditions are right for some of this construction to continue, are we gonna see an upswing in expense at some point?
We would hope so, and I think our design and development chief, as he reviews fiscal year 19 construction projects, he can probably better answer that, but that would be the assumption that we'd start to play catch-up here in fiscal year 19, or 20, I'm sorry.
Now, this is in essence, you've closed out your fiscal 19 budget with this report, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
No further comments, please continue to the action item.
The action item presented to the commission is the request for approval for submitting the fiscal year 2021 department appropriation request to the Office of Administration on October 1st. The appropriation request was discussed in detail at yesterday's budget workshop, and you have additional information in your books entitled Fiscal Year 2021 Budget Request. If there are not additional questions based on that discussion yesterday, I request approval to send an appropriation request of $168,723,822 for the fiscal year 2021 operating budget, and $39,700,000 in appropriation request for capital improvements. This action will also include the approval to allow other agency appropriations authority to the Conservation Commission Fund of $22,857,938. So I would note that the amount that we discussed yesterday was $50,000 higher than the books you originally received, and so we discussed a little bit of that yesterday, but that was based on more current information.
Let the record show that there was extensive discussion yesterday on this matter, and consistent with the discussion, do I have a motion to approve the recommended budget? Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion?
Andrew, the other agencies, and I'm looking now, the Office of Administration is part of this, so there'll be requests to them. The State Auditor's Office, and also the Department of Revenue, are those the other three agencies?
Correct. They will request that our funding inside their budget.
Okay.
So that's why it's separated out. So they will ask for that appropriation.
So that's that
authority.
22,857 number?
It's 22 million, but yes.
22 million, excuse me, 22 million, yes. That's a more reasonable number, yes.
Yes, sir.
22 in addition to the 168 and the 39 you mentioned earlier,
Correct.
million.
Correct.
So-
22 million of it is Office Administration, so it It goes towards retirement benefits, payroll taxes, everything that runs through the Office of Administration. $626,000 is for the Department of Revenue to collect sales tax and then distribute it to us. And then about 49, almost 50,000 is for the state auditor to audit us.
Conservation money through those departments then.
That's exactly correct.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion carries. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay, information technology, Doug, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director Polly, good morning.
Morning.
As you said, my name is Douglas Fees, and I serve as the department's IT chief. I have the next agenda item, number 9. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to share with you an overview of the FY19 IT report found in your meeting materials. That report shares some information about the accomplishments we had this past year, including completed IT projects, some that are still in work, as well as the various IT maintenance, operations, and support work that we do. My presentation will basically cover most of those topics. Starting with kind of page 5 and 6 is a summary of that report. This was another good year for IT. We completed 33 projects as compared to 32 last year, and as compared to our 6-year average of 30.5, so it was a good year for us. I'd like to first share about some of the key projects we completed during this past fiscal year, which you can find on page 5 and 6 of the report. Starting with the one you see here, the screenshots here, that is. This particular project was rolled out last December and is the department's newest mobile application called Mo Outdoors that Heather spoke of earlier. This application makes it much easier for the public to search for and find conservation areas and associated features such as fishing, hunting, bird watching, and hiking, and also includes other information such as regulations and seasons. As I mentioned earlier, these are screenshots of the application that represent the search page, the features page, and a map of the selected conservation area. Through the end of July, as the screen shows there, we've had nearly 28,000 downloads of the application. The app is available on both the Apple Store as well as the Google Play Store. And if you haven't already downloaded, I would encourage you to do so, as well as Mo Hunting and Mo Fishing. These are really great tools that we provide the public to help them to really get out, find, and enjoy the many things that we offer as an agency. The next project is the Infrastructure Asset Management and Lands Management System that was rolled out late last summer. These applications, of course, help us manage the department's infrastructure and land assets statewide. The screenshots that you saw there help us represent a very, very small very small component of the mini screens in the applications, and include the asset valuation screen, the managed facility screen, and then the one you see here on top is a screen showing the integration to the department's GIS, Geographic Information System environment. And you'll be hearing a little bit more about this topic from Mr. Cariaga, who has the next presentation. The next project is the implementation of the Learning Management System module within the department's Human Resources Information System. These screenshots here include the initial employee learning portal, the employee learning assignment page, and the details page of a learning event. This new tool went live just this past June. Next is the Missouri Managed Woods Project. This new application replaces an aging application that uses very old technology. This program is a voluntary program designed to encourage better management and protection of privately owned forested lands. The screenshots shown here represent the landowner search, the details page, and the enrollment process checklist. This application went live last December. Each year, we also work on what we call discovery projects. These projects have us gather the technical and business requirements for a proposed system, and then put together a plan, a high-level design, screen mock-ups, a cost estimate, potentially to buy or build, and a draft schedule. This helps us ensure that we are delivering the desired results by doing these upfront planning projects. There were also several projects that were in progress when FY19 ended in June. including those that you see listed here. The complete list is found on page 6 of that report. You'll be seeing project updates on these and various other approved IT projects throughout the year. Moving on now to talk briefly about our IT maintenance and operations area. These highlights represent a very small portion of what we do to keep the IT lights on for the department. This is basically a very brief summary of what you find on pages 1 through 4 of that report. This past year, for example, we responded to over 16,500 service requests. We processed over 450 IT purchase requests, provided maintenance and operations on literally hundreds of applications and devices, and replaced about 1,600 pieces of equipment that had reached its end of useful life. I'd like to very quickly conclude by stating that we have a great IT staff. I'm very proud of them and what they do and what they accomplish. I want to thank each of them for what they do, as well as the many staff that we partner with from other divisions. They also play a great role in delivering the projects that we deliver. It's through that great teamwork across IT and the department that we're able to deliver this portfolio and to balance that with keeping all the lights on, if you will, from an IT perspective for the agency. I also want to thank the Commission for your continued support in investing in IT for the agency. It literally helps us put conservation on the ground, as you saw, as well as it helps us provide easier access to the information that citizens need to help them get out and enjoy conservation. So with that concludes my comments. I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments.
Any questions, commissioners?
No, sir.
Just a quick question. What ERP software do you use?
It is the vendor we use is SuccessFactors, but it's a SAP solution.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doug, thank you, and thank your staff. A lot
Thank
of
you.
work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Jacob, you're up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director
Morning, sir.
Pauly. There has been a little bit of foreshadowing this morning about the construction activities. And yes, it has been a very FY19 was a very challenging year with the flooding. We were poised to do a lot of work after the failure of House Bill 19 the previous year. I had to say it one more time. And then, weather just was not our friend. So in your advanced materials, there is a very high-level summary of the major construction projects. I just want to point out that in those materials and in my presentation today, it doesn't speak specifically to all the daily maintenance and repair activities that our team fulfills to help conservation every day. Those type of daily activities are countless, and it's sometimes thankless work, but we do it joyfully and cheerfully because we believe in the mission. So, as Andrew alluded to, flooding did delay some projects. In fact, there were 8 major construction projects that were under contract that they just were either had to shut down and demobilize or were never able to mobilize on site. Just now they are starting to get back to work. And to be honest, some of the rains we've had this week made the contractors a little nervous. So we have our fingers crossed and we hope that it'll be a drier fall than it was a spring. So I'm going to start by giving you some highlights of the major projects that were completed in fiscal year 19. First, I'll start off with 10 chemical storage and fuel cabinet projects. Individually, they may seem kind of small. They're maybe $40,000 to $50,000 a piece, but for efficiency's sake, we bundled the contracts together. So there were 2 contracts, 5 locations each. So when you add all that up, it gets to that threshold of a major construction project. So in each instance, we had to tie into the building's electrical system, and these are commercial code governed type of installations, so that it is more rigor than one might be accustomed to on a residential project. They had to prepare the site. The units are modular. They're prefabricated modular units, so they come in, we set them, the contractor sets them on site. There's the fuel cabinet. One of the reasons that we need to do these type of projects is there's very specific regulations regarding storage of these chemicals for both environmental reasons and human safety reasons. So you'll see here some of the features. All the electrical components have very specific requirements to reduce the likelihood of sparking an explosion. You notice on the floor, all the holes there, that's to contain any potential spills, so that certified contractor can come in and clean up the spills without it causing any other damage. And there's the finished product, and there were 10 installations like that all across the state. Next, I'm going to focus on lead mine bridge improvements. This was a project that was focused on improving aquatic organism passage, but it also improved access for the public in high water events. So this is the existing condition before we started our project. See that low water crossing slab? Contractors beginning to remove the low water slab. You see the temporary water flow that has to be accommodated. In this location, we used H piles as the foundation. You can see them being driven there. We were working right up along the water's edge. It was a pretty wet winter, so there were some challenging site conditions for the contractor. We used prefabricated, pre-stressed concrete bridge beams to expedite construction. You see them being placed here. And there's a before and after for that particular project, and there was about $150,000 of federal grant money involved in this project. Raniker, we had a very similar project. This is the existing condition. Very challenging weather conditions like I shared before. This is after they had removed the slab but weren't able to mobilize their foundation equipment yet. Here in this location, you see we actually chipped into rock for the foundation. You see again, we're right up against the water's edge as the contractor's pouring the foundation. Again, prefabricated, pre-stressed concrete bridge beams. Some dangerous work being done by the contractor. Those are very heavy. Part of this project also included rerouting the road to improve ecological function by removing or moving the roadway out of the riparian corridor. And there's the finished product. At Fiery Fork, there's actually 2 low water crossing slabs that needed to be replaced. You see them there. It's a much longer project, more complicated. A lot of, it was very challenging to get those piles in those wet conditions over the winter. You can see how excited he is.
I was not very happy.
Notice there is snow on the beam and it's muddy on the ground, so it was a very challenging winter. You can see this is a very good shot to demonstrate the benefit of projects like this and how it can improve aquatic organism passage compared to the previous condition. This in this location there was a concrete roadway that was poured between the 2 bridges just to help with preventing erosion or scour and high flow events. And there's the finished condition. Yes, sir.
Jacob, on all 3 of these, you know, a good presentation on the visuals. Are these all just for normal flow in high water? It's going to still go over the bridge, is that correct, or is it out of the floodplain?
It is not intended for high flow events, for design events, if you will. So it does improve access for wet conditions, but if you have a design event go through, that's not the intention. So if you notice, there's no bridge railings.
No railing to catch
Right.
tree branches and all the
Correct.
stuff that would be collected in it? Okay.
Correct. It is designed to reduce catching debris because they do flow over the, yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome. At Lake City Range, after about 10 years, the concrete baffles had some wear and tear on them. So there's a project at Lake City to do some rehabilitation work there. You see the spalling, the chipping at that lower edge of the baffle as bullets maybe somebody hadn't sighted their rifle in correctly, or maybe they were hitting the concrete floor and it was reflecting up and doing hitting the baffles. You can see here that the baffles were actually doing what they were designed to do, and that was to contain the projectiles. So contractor first had to patch all those holes. Another component of the project was at the edges of the baffles. We're starting to see some spalling. You can see it in the red circle there. So contractor had to jack the baffles up at the edges. This is just on each end where the end walls are. So they had to jack these baffles up, actually unbolt them from the wall on the outside. They had to remove that edge support while the baffle was jacked up, fly in a new edge support that was wider and thicker. That's actually 1-inch thick steel. And then put it in place. You can see how there's a better supporting area for that baffle now. And then the third component of this work was to use abrasion-resistant steel to armor the lower edge of those baffles so that we don't have to come back in later and do that spalling repair. So that's a very involved process, as you can see here. These baffles are pre-stressed concrete, so they had to very carefully place fasteners in the backside of those baffles, making sure they didn't hit the pre-stressing strands. And there's the finished product. And then one last project I want to highlight for you is it's here at Central Office. We had to replace the cooling system. The cooling system for most of the building was nearing 40 years old, so it was time to replace it. You can see the new chiller units being lifted in. It was a very tight fit, they had to be very careful that they didn't damage the units or get crushed. As you see, there's not a lot of working space for the contractor. And then once they got the new units installed, they had to wire them into the IT system so that we can communicate with them with the new software that we have. New air handlers, again, very tight. And then this is the control system being installed. Much more efficient system, much more reliable system, and it allows us to control them much better than the previous system. So if you look at all of the construction contracts that D&D managed in fiscal year 19, our overall change order percentage was 0.03%. Industry benchmark is 5%, no more than 5% change orders, and our performance measure in the Missouri Department of Conservation is 3% threshold for change orders. So you can see our track record there. We've managed our contracts very well, but more importantly, we have the scope well identified, and the design and the plans are very thorough so that we mitigate the potential for errors or omissions, unforeseen conditions in the field. I'd like to now give you a brief update on the infrastructure asset management inventory. So this is a dashboard that's in your advanced materials. This one is from the end of the fiscal year. As you can see, June 21st. This reflects the effort of the strike teams and the consultants. I'll go into more detail on this in a later presentation. You can see how many assets we have in the system. Everything is queued up and ready for field data collection, and so far the accumulated replacement cost is $15 million. It's important to note that at the end of the fiscal year, we had approximately 60% of the conservation areas that had data collection complete in the field, but only about 30% of conservation areas actually have made it through the quality control process. There's a bit of a backlog there as we work through. And most of the large conservation areas that have heavy infrastructure density are being done by consultants. The flooding has slowed them down because they're not able to get to those wetlands, for example. So we expect to catch up on the larger conservation areas and see these numbers go up on replacement cost and assets in the system as the fiscal year progresses, heading towards the June 30, 2020 deadline for getting this work complete. Here you can see just a breakdown by zone And what the top list, where it lists out the region, is the strike teams and the work that they completed by the end of the fiscal year, and the bottom 4 rows are the zones that the consultants are completing. You see that the strike teams are making very good progress, and the consultants with the flooding and the more challenging, more expansive conservation areas we task them with, their progress isn't as fast as the strike teams. Some of the interesting things we've learned from the inventory so far is at the end of the fiscal year, we had 76 pedestrian bridges completed. The decking, just for those pedestrian bridges, represents over 890,000 board feet of lumber. It's a lot of decking to take care of. If you think about boardwalks, there's 1.5 million board feet of lumber in the boardwalks alone, and we're not done with our inventory yet. So those, just something to keep in your back pocket to give you a sense of scale on the infrastructure across the state. So I'm going to pivot now to the damage assessments after the flooding and the tornadoes came through. You see here some representative pictures. The interesting thing is these photographs came from work in the field to identify the damage, try and quantify it. And as we were beginning to get a sense of the extent of the damage, one of the individuals on the infrastructure asset management team, Josh Chacombe, suggested that we could leverage the information in the infrastructure asset management system that we had collected and intersect that with functionality or software that we have already available through the Enterprise Geographic Information System, get those tools to work together, and use the strike teams that we had in the field to expedite the damage assessments, which then will help us in a standardized way collect the information and make better decisions faster on what infrastructure we need to repair and what infrastructure maybe we shouldn't put back. So this screen here is a composite in that software using the Enterprise GIS system that has leveraged the data in the infrastructure asset management system. At the bottom you see there's a summary by administrative region, and the dashboard shows you a lot of different pieces of information. I actually have a video that kind of steps through how this works, so gives you a sense, somewhat real time, of how we're able to access the information very quickly. So you see in the upper right hand corner, they're searching for a specific conservation area. The software zooms in, and one of those blue dots represents damaged infrastructure. You can see, scroll through and see what information is there. The folks that are in the field taking photographs and doing the assessments, that information, as soon as they connect to the internet, is uploaded and it's collected centrally here, so we have real-time results on what the damage is. And again, this is being fed by information from our infrastructure asset inventory effort. You can start to see statewide where the most damage is. The larger the circle, the more instances there are of damage. Again, it's all standardized information, almost in a survey format, so it helps expedite the information being aggregated here in Jeff City. This is, like I described earlier, tied into our Enterprise Geographic Information System using software that we already had a subscription for. So we're just leveraging the tools better that we had available to us. Very powerful, very helpful for the department. So as this information comes in, it's being reviewed, and there may be some instances where we can proceed with repairs as is. There are others where the damage is more significant. The agency is going to have to get a little more information, maybe some engineering analysis, before we make decisions on what to do next. And a good example is some of those structures, like that one. On the back end, the information then is able to be exported into Excel spreadsheets, which will then expedite our federal reimbursement requests through FEMA. That concludes my remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is your federal reimbursement at 75%?
It depends on the grant program, and if you're talking about construction of new infrastructure versus damage repairs.
Damage repairs?
For most cases, yes, it is 75%, but there are alternative projects that you can propose that reduces.
And do you get some funds from SEMA as well?
Now, SEMA is the conduit, if you will, the coordinator, but we work directly with FEMA for reimbursement.
Thank you.
Any questions? Steve, Barry?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Batson Warren,
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director
action
Pauly.
items.
I have 2 action items for your consideration today. First is a recommendation to approve the exchange of 2 tracts containing .19 acre and .98 acres respectively of the August A. Bush Memorial Conservation Area in St. Charles County for 1 tract containing 1.17 acres in St. Charles County owned by Union Electric Company.
We discussed this previously. Do I have a motion to approve these transfers?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you.
Next
Next,
action
please.
item is, next action item is a recommendation to approve the exchange of approximately 35 acres of the Poplar Bluff Conservation Area in Butler County for approximately 11 acres owned by the Poplar Bluff Rifle and Pistol Club as an addition to Poplar Bluff Conservation Area.
Thank you. This also was discussed. Do I have a motion to approve this? So moved. Is there a second? Any discussion?
Did you had these properties appraised, is that correct, Jennifer?
The second of, yes, the second
Second
property
one.
we did have
Yeah,
appraised,
the
that's
second-
correct.
That's correct, yeah, not the
Yes,
first
sir.
one, the second one. Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thomas? You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the next
Couple.
3 items on your agenda. The first 2 are action items, and would like to provide a presentation with your permission, sir, on the Conservation Employees Benefits Plan. We have some pretty exciting news for the commission today that I wanted to provide, especially for the new commissioners, some background on the plan itself, how it's operated, and our strategic intent with that plan.
Please.
Okay. So again, thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update on the plan, and I want to thank the commission for your continued support of the plan and our insurance benefits for our staff, retirees, and their dependents. In recent years, the plan's performance and premiums have remained static, and with the commission's support, the plan has outperformed our competitors while providing a solid insurance benefit for employees, our retirees again, and their dependents. So the trust fund was created in the year 2000, and just for some perspective then, we were a fully insured plan in 1999. But when we brought forward our insurance recommendations commission that year, we were looking at a 41% increase in insurance premiums. Hence, the commission at that point gave direction to Human Resources and the director to create a self-insured plan in order to provide insurance coverage, again, for all staff and retirees. The self-insured plan provides more flexibility in plan design and better transparency of overall spend. It enables an employer plan to save the profit margin that an insurance company adds to its premium for a fully insured plan. However, self-insurance requires the employer to take on the risk of claims for covered members and usually requires the purchase of stop-loss insurance, and we do have stop-loss insurance for our plan. Stop-loss insurance, often referred to as reinsurance, ensures that catastrophic claims or numerous claims do not upset the financial reserves of the plan itself. Today, the plan provides medical and prescription insurance coverage for approximately 4,300 lives. As you will see from today's presentation, the overall performance is positive due primarily to proactive plan management, an increased focus on wellness and member consumerism, which plays an integral part in the long-term sustainability of the plan. So the Conservation Employees Benefits Plan Board of Trustees is a 5-member board comprised of 2 standing members, the Administrative Services Division Chief, which is Cindy Voss, and myself as Human Resources Division Chief. The commission appoints 1 division chief for a 5-year term to serve on the board, and then we prepare recommendations to you for 2 3-year terms for what we'd call our member-at-large positions, again, to provide that member perspective towards the judgments and calls that are made on the plan. The board is responsible for administration of the plan, including determination of eligibility of coverage and plan design and management of contracts, investments, and the fund balance. The board works closely with the plan's insurance consultant, Willis Towers Watson, to continue offering viable plan options for employees and retirees while maintaining fiscal responsibility of the fund balance. Since 2014, plan net income has remained constant. The overall fund balance has been steadily increasing from $7.5 million in 2014 to $11.6 million as of July of 2019. The plan's actuaries have indicated the minimum fund balance should reflect approximately 3 months of claims expense. Based on this estimate, the actuarial recommendation is a minimum fund balance of approximately $4.5 million. So therefore, the $11.6 million balance right now is very financially and actuarially sound. The Board of Trustees and financial services staff work closely with the fund's investment vendor, Central Bank, to ensure investment activities are compliant with state and federal laws, funds are invested safely, and yield the highest possible return while taking into account the allowable investments and liquidity needs for the plan. Investment reports are reviewed by financial services on a monthly basis, and the board also receives investment updates periodically from Central Bank and a full investment performance report annually. This slide demonstrates the plan's income noted in the gray bar in the chart, which exceeds the expense in most cases noted in blue for each of the past 5 plan years, and shows clearly how the plan has performed well since calendar year of 2015. As I stated earlier, plan design changes and a focus on wellness and member consumerism have been the direction taken by the board since approximately 2012, and plan performance is showing the fruit of those labors at that point. While the plan has seen some fluctuation in claims experience, we've performed well over time. You'll definitely note, and again, I should have noted earlier, the plan operates on a calendar year basis as opposed to the department's fiscal year basis of July through June. So this is all calendar year, lines up with our enrollment periods. But especially I'd note in calendar year 18, we changed our network provider to Blue Cross Blue Shield, which provided an additional 10% discount on most of our claims in addition to what we had seen before under our prior vendor of HealthLink. Thus about a $2 million decrease in what we saw in claims for the plan. So it was a big move, and seeing members and the plan are seeing those tremendous discounts that we're getting through the new network provider. And in the big picture, this chart definitely shows how the Board of Trustees is committed to proactive management of this valuable benefit for employees and retirees. In addition to a continued focus on the importance of member responsibility, consumerism, and wellness initiatives, we've been diligent to ensure we've implemented all of the portions of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act that have rolled out over the last several years. As a result, you can see from this chart, the last time we had a premium increase was in 2016 at 2%. We've been 0% 2017, 18, and 19. And it's my pleasure to recommend later after the presentation a 3% reduction in premiums for calendar year 2020. So again, if we had stayed, or if we had been at that 5 to 6% number in each of the past several years, And assuming the commission had approved those increases, the commission's portion of insurance premiums would be approximately $3 million higher than it is today. So again, the plan management, the partnership with the commission has provided a solid benefit for our staff, but we have certainly done better than most competitors on how our premiums are structured. I know we had questions from the commission in terms of how our plan compares to the other state agencies. This chart certainly shows you the picture from premiums. So Conservation Employees Benefits Plan is in the maroon there on the very left of these. The first stack of bar charts shows you the total premium. So the commission's portion of premiums combined with the employee's portion of premiums for family coverage under the preferred provider organization, which is our most common piece of coverage. We also provide a high deductible health plan option. Really a key part of when we rolled that out. We now have over 40% of our staff that are in the high deductible health plan option, which again helps emphasize that consumerism. But the PPO option for family, this is our most populous portion of our plan. So total premium for conservation is about $14,000. For those folks over at MoDOT, it's about $18,600. And Missouri Consolidated, which is the insurance plan for the majority of other state agencies, that total premium is $29,000 a year. So just for comparison there, the middle one, from a board of directors perspective here, the commission's perspective, commission's contribution on our plan is about $9,600 compared to the highway commission's contribution of $15,000, and the other state agencies are $24,000. So just because I know the chair likes math and percentages, that's 149% higher than what we're doing. So again, this is not to criticize the other plans, but it is to show just how hard we work, again, as an agency on this insurance benefit and trying to ensure that we have the highest value that's there. Also noting on the far right, the premiums that are being paid from our staff for this type of coverage, other than MoDOT, are lower than the other state agencies. And again, on that far right of this shows you what the national average is in each of these categories as well. So we are lower than, or about $5,000 lower than on the commission's contribution to health insurance compared to national average, and that's both private and public sector.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Question, please.
So I understand the premium side of it. Is this given the same level of benefits across the board?
Very similar. There are always, it gets real complicated when you get into co-pays and prescription coverage and maximum out-of-pockets and whatnot, but for all intents and purposes, the coverages are very similar.
So how do you explain, I mean, we're all in the same area, basically. How do you explain that big a difference?
I think what we have done, Commissioner, is we have really, number one, we're blessed with a staff that primarily is very active. I would say just from, those key indicators that we know are out there in an American population, BMI, regular exercise and activity, those pieces. I think we have a population that's healthier than many other employers. But secondly, we have made a very conscious effort on that consumerism side in our communications for the past 10 years. Our members, our employees and retirees understand, hey, if I don't, again, one example, my kiddo has the sniffles, rather than do a $1,000 emergency room visit, I can go to urgent care for 60 or 70 bucks. Our member understands, hey, if I have a surgery coming up, again, assuming non-emergency there, I can shop around, I can take a look at best value. We've also partnered with vendors that are now getting into being able to do that price shopping that wasn't there before. 10 years ago, if you needed a knee scope, you really had trouble finding out what Columbia Orthopedic would charge you versus Barnes versus whomever. So we've really opened the doors to those types of decisions being similar to, and I'm not comparing them in terms of impact to lives, but shopping for a car, shopping for other products that are out there, services.
Well, it's interesting to see how you've moved, how your plan has gone from being a fully insured plan using HealthLink
Right.
to what you're doing right now. And I just want to make one comment. We also used HealthLink in our organization for a period of time, and we didn't realize, you know, their goal is to reduce the costs by vendor. In other words, they will negotiate a price with you with University Hospital,
Right.
for example. We didn't realize they were also charging a similar fee to University Hospital, you know, and so you kind of wonder, you know, where their loyalties are when they're charging both parties in the same transaction.
Right.
The other thing that we have a problem with, and we're a similar size in terms of the number of people that we insure,
Right.
is with the stop-loss benefits. And that is that the stop-loss coverage, or stop-loss insurers now are getting to the point where they will laser out people of your plan.
Right.
So the initial concept was that they're gonna take all the claims over whatever your stop-loss limit is. Now we find that they're saying, well, I'll take all of your plans except him and her and her. So are you having a problem with that as well?
We have not, I'm knocking on wood, and I know, looking at our comp and benefits manager as well, we have not in recent years, we have had that occur in the past. Stop losses, you know, changed drastically once they put the rule in on plans where there's no maximum lifetime benefit. That really changed the game a lot on how those bids go. But we have been very fortunate over the last 4 or 5 years not to have any lasers. But they do get more aggressive with some of those deductible amounts in terms of how the premium is constructed. So whether you're taking more risk on the deductible side or whether you want to pay the higher premium. And the board considers that annually. Our third-party administrator helps get those bids for us on reinsurance coverage. And if lasers come up, we discuss those as well.
Well, you're obviously doing something right, so congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And a question, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Working with your healthcare provider, do you have employees programs like for health screening, for example? And maybe some incentives built into people to stay healthier and things of that nature?
Absolutely. We have health screenings that we coordinate in each of our regions on an annual basis where we bring in providers to do general checks on blood pressure and the blood screenings and things like that, as well as, especially for our high deductible members, there are actually cash incentives that are placed into their health savings account for getting your annual physical, for being active in an exercise plan. And of course, for all members, again, under Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, there's no cost for much of the preventative things that are out there.
Diet and exercise and all the things that contribute to a healthier lifestyle.
Yes, sir. Now, we also have disease management programs for our folks with high blood pressure and with diabetes. Again, programs where compliance with treatment really helps, number one, keep them healthier, but number two, helps keep costs contained on those two as well.
If I think I understand now, this is all health program now. The dental and optical, is that separate from this?
It is. Dental and optical benefits are fully administered by by Missouri Consolidated Healthcare Plan, which is separate from us.
Okay.
Those are offered to employees on an annual basis as well, but none of those numbers are in this.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Tom, if you would, please get copies of your presentation
Absolutely.
for all the commissioners.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, again, my pleasure to provide you with that brief presentation, but the Conservation Employees Benefits Plan Board of Trustees is pleased to recommend commission approval of the commission's continued rate of premium contribution. Again, right now, you're contributing 68% of the premium for actives and up to 35% of the premium for retirees. That's a tiered approach based upon their years of service upon retirement. But the board recommends a 3% premium decrease for plan year 2020. So that would result in an approximate decrease of $152,000 in commission contributions from January 1 of 2020 through June 30 of 2020.
Anyone not want to make that motion?
Yeah, that's,
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
second.
Figured you'd all make that motion. Made, seconded. Anyone opposed? All 4, let the record show, passed, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item, item 14, is also an action item. We are recommending the approval of 4 position reclassifications. 3 of these are in the Design and Development Division. 1 is in the Fisheries Division. The approximate annual increase in personal services expenditures from these reclassifications is, if approved, would be approximately $29,700.
Any questions?
Just one, I'm guessing this one going from a, looks like an equipment operator to is it a registered architect?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions? Motion to approve,
So moved.
Second.
made and seconded, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The final item is item 15. It's the quarterly summary of personnel actions. This fourth quarter report summarizes all personnel actions approved by the director during this time period, including new hires, promotions, and transfers. And again, for the new members, the commission has delegated authority for hiring, promotions, transfers to the director. We provide this report to you on a quarterly basis just to inform you as to what she has approved. So this is information only. If there are any questions, be glad to answer them.
Any questions, commissioners? Hearing none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank your staff. Thank the board.
Yes, sir, I will. Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thanks.
I'm pleased to inform you that the last action item has already been acted on. Therefore, are there any other matters of interest that the commissioners would like to bring forward? Hearing none, we shall adjourn. Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.